All right, we are live, and with me is Holly Lynn. Holly Lynn, thank you for
Hi, how
joining
are
me.
you, everybody? Absolutely. I love coming on here.
Me too, and we're going to touch on a pretty intense topic, one I have never gone into detail publicly with. I don't know how much Holly has shared publicly, but we are going to both talk about our experiences. For example, like I lost my brother in 2011. Um, Holly lost her husband in
2017. It was December 2000. So it was about a little over 2 years ago.
wow, that's
Yeah.
still very fresh. So we're going to
Yes.
talk about what happened and how we got through it. To be perfectly clear, this is not a show for medical advice. We're just giving our firsthand accounts on how we dealt with death, how we got through it, and to just try and show that there really, no matter how dark it seems, there genuinely is light at the end of the tunnel. I promise you, because I was personally very low. So if I could, Holly,
Yeah.
tell me about your husband. Tell me what happened.
Well, a lot of people on my Facebook know about, our story. I've always been super, super public about it, from day one. But there's a lot of people that don't know me and they don't know my story. Basically in 2013, my husband was, he was having trouble with his arm. It kept like, pulsating, and we're like, okay, but I don't know what that, maybe he was a fireman, so maybe he was lifting something heavy and he overdid it. So I'm like, maybe you injured your muscle or something, right? Well, it went on for months and months, and his dad was like, you should probably get that checked out, because we don't even know what that is. So
Right.
he got it checked out, and the doctor was like, yeah, I mean, because at this point, after several months, it was pulsating. I mean, you can see it
For
across the
months?
room, months, and you can see it across the room. His it pulsating, and so the doctor was like, I don't know, like you could have MS, and we were devastated when they said it could be MS, because MS isn't good at all.
No, of course
It
not.
is manageable with some medication, but anyways, I just remember being like, oh my god, he's gonna be out of work, he's gonna be a disability, they're away, like I hope it's not MS. And then the test came back, because there is a test for MS, and that came back negative. And
Okay.
then the doctors were like, you're young and you're healthy, you probably don't have ALS, but let's just go ahead and do a test. And neither one of us really knew what ALS was.
Right.
Both of us had to Google it. So basically, he went to the doctors, and I didn't even go with him because I didn't even think of anything of it. I was we had our son at the time was 1, and I was like, yeah, you'll be fine. Like, I kind
Right.
of brushed it off. When he went in there, they did an EMG test, which they test for the muscles.
Okay.
And apparently the muscle test came back with muscle damage. He had some kind of nerve damage. So how I found out he had it was, I was sitting at home with my son, and he walked in the door, and I was like, hey, you gonna live? Like, that's just the sense of humor that we have with each other.
Right.
And he didn't answer me. And I was like, that's weird, But again, I brushed it off. And then he picked up our 1-year-old son, and he had tears running down his face. And I looked at him, and I was like, what? Like, he was not a crier. He was not an emotional person. And I was like, what is wrong? And he's like, I have ALS. And I'm like, okay, well, like, can you get a shot for it?
Right.
I didn't know what it was. Let's take some medication. And he's like, he just was crying, and he wouldn't tell me anything. So of course I looked it up. I had to Google it, and I was like, terminal? It's terminal? It's deadly. You can live, average people who have ALS live for 3 to 5 years. It's mostly an older person disease. And he was super healthy. Like, nothing made sense about it.
Right.
Nothing.
It was
So we ended up getting a second opinion in Chicago, to a very good specialist. And this time I went with him. And the doctor came in, and instead of looking at my husband Derek and saying, you have ALS, he looked at me and said it. And I thought that was kind of strange. And then he's like, I have someone come in to talk to you. Give me a minute. So a lady comes in and she hands me just a stack of papers and a stack of pamphlets. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And she's like, you're going to have to know how to take care of him. I'm like, what? And it was like talking about how to handle someone in a wheelchair, how to tube feed somebody. I was just floored because it was just a lot because at the time, if you looked at him, he was completely healthy.
Right.
And they're telling me that he's going to be in a wheelchair. They're telling me that he's going to be tube fed. He's not going to be able to walk again. Like, he's going to die. You know, that's a lot to process.
Yeah.
Especially since I had a 1-year-old son at the time.
Absolutely.
And so I obviously walked out of the office and just was in denial.
It's hard to accept. You don't believe it.
No, I didn't. And actually he didn't either, because we're like, you know what? You're a healthy man, like, you know, and he actually continued to work for about a year afterwards, because again, you didn't even know that anything was wrong with him.
Right.
So he just kept, you know, he worked as long as he could until like it became a safety issue, because he you know, as a fireman, you have to be fit and strong.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't want someone going into a burning building and can't lift somebody out of it.
Right.
So nobody, you know, really said anything that you need to leave or anything. He took it upon himself that he said, I don't think that I can do the job anymore. So that's when he made the decision to quit.
Okay.
Actually, no, he didn't quit. My dog is snoring. She is really distracting
Okay.
right yeah, so it just, he ended up working, and then he got put on a desk job for a little bit too, before he just got let go, basically, from work. And then he had it for a total of 4.5 years. So again, it fits into that 3 to 5 years. People usually live with it. There's people that live less than that, and there's people that live longer with that. And he was like right in the middle of it. So he died at 34.
That is incredibly young.
Yeah, he was diagnosed at 30 and he died at 34.
So, if I may, just so people can gain a full picture, what was it like?
Sorry,
that's the best way to ask this. How would you describe how you felt from when it happened to your place now, and what got you through it?
Well, I want to say, like, with that disease, I was grieving for the whole 4.5 years. Like, I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when. So I was prepping myself during these 4.5 years. The 4.5 years, especially the last 2 years, where they were extremely, extremely difficult, because my husband was the breadwinner. He was the man of the house. He took care of me. He took care of the kids. He did everything. And then for him to go to this strong man, fireman, to this weak man, he lost so much weight. He was, you know, at the end, you couldn't even really recognize him, because he lost so much weight, and he was just he lost all of his muscle control. He lost his ability to walk. He lost his ability to eat. I had to, me and his dad and other caregivers, we had to take shifts and had to feed him. He ended up on a tube fed. So we had to feed him formula, because if you tried to feed him regular food, he would choke. So he was tube fed and he couldn't walk. And then at the end, he lost his ability to talk and eventually breathe.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm actually at a loss for words. How did you get to where you're at now? What got you through it?
Well, our kids, we actually we had 2 more children during all this. People thought we were crazy. Yeah. One of them was planned, because I wanted my son to grow up with a sibling. I didn't want him to grow up without a dad and without a sibling. And so we had our son, and my daughter was She was a surprise. So,
a nice surprise, I take it.
I got a lot of reactions after we told people I was pregnant with her. I'll tell you that much. So we ended up, I don't like, my kids pulled us through it. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have them. I would have been in a way darker place. I knew that I had to stay strong, suck it, and I shouldn't say suck it up, because it's okay to show emotion in front of kids.
Right.
You should, because they need to know that it's okay. My family is very supportive. My in-laws are amazing. They're amazing. I just have a really good support system, and I shouldn't say that I'm like super strong, because there was, I made poor choices afterwards. I didn't know how to handle the grief.
Right.
I didn't know how to do it. So I would do things that I would distract myself in different things to try and not think about it. And I even catch myself still doing it because it's still raw to me. Like, everyone kept saying, the doctors were like, he's going to die. He's going to die. He's going to die. But then when he actually was gone, it was just devastating, because, he was my first love.
Right.
He was my best friend. So
which is not replaceable.
No, it's not. And you can't replace it. And I've heard a lot of talk about secondary losses. I don't know if you ever heard of that before.
No, I haven't.
So the loss of the person is the main primary loss, and secondary loss is like, I lost my best friend. I lost the father of my children. I lost the finance guy in my house. He was the one that did the cooking, and he handled our finances, and that was all gone. You don't just lose your husband, you lose your best friend. You lost your husband, you lost your kid's parent. Like, it's
everything.
Like, it is life changing, and I will never be the same after watching him die the way that he actually died. I don't think I'll ever be the same free-spirited, happy-go-lucky person that I once was. But I definitely try.
No, I see your Facebook statuses. So you talking about karaoke in theaters. I mean, you definitely try.
I do. Like, I am very blessed that I really have a passion for singing and acting, because that has pulled me through. Right. Doing that is my outlet. If I didn't have that, like, that's why I'm struggling with this quarantine, because I'm sure you can relate. I'm sure all of you can relate. Like, going to the gym, having some type of routine, some type of distraction.
Right.
And those are right now taken away from us. And it's the worst, because you're stuck with your own thoughts and you have no outlet, except for, that's why, like, right now, this is therapeutic for me. I don't know, but I'm sure it might be for you.
I hope it is. I'll find out.
Yeah. I mean, every loss is terrible. I don't care if I lost my dad in January. And that was hard too. So I know a lot about loss.
Right.
And I'm not saying that losing my dad wasn't terrible, because it was, and his was unexpected. But losing my husband, that just changed my world. It changed, and it affected my world every single day going forward. Every time my kids have a special event, a birthday, I keep thinking what I'm missing out on, and I look at them and I keep thinking what they are missing out on.
Right.
So those are secondary losses.
I've never heard that term, but I guess I had a primary loss then, would be the way to describe it. I didn't have secondary loss. The best way I could personally describe my experience is a black hole. Here, I guess, let me go back a little bit. So there's a lot to the story, so I'm going to try and simplify it. My brother he had moved out. He had just gotten back from the Army. He was a special forces medic. He was having a hard time. And we were all planning a get-together on Thanksgiving. And at about 3 p.m., I had texted him. And because we had been having a hard time, I said, "Hey, bro, I look forward to seeing you, and I love you." just thinking like that would ease the tension. We're at dinner, we're waiting for him. And then all of a sudden, my other brother looks to me and he's like signaling me to get away from the table. And it's my mom, my grandma, like our full whole family's there. And we go into the back in the kitchen and he shows me a status and it says Rip Brent Ortega on Facebook. I found out my brother died on Facebook.
Oh my God. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
And I'm like reading this and I'm like, no. And I start calling him. And I just like lashed out. I slammed the fridge. My mom heard me and I'm just like not knowing what to do. And we weren't believing it. Like it wasn't setting in. And it was like Thanksgiving, we're supposed to be together. And I felt like a failure because my brothers and I are tremendously close. I'm the oldest brother, and I can be very, very overprotective to the point that it annoys people close to me. But I don't know. That's just how I was. I always watched over them, and the fact that I failed him, just there were no words to put in. And I remember just sitting downstairs in the days following. And at this time, I was a believer. And I remember just begging God, like, just take my life. Give me my brother back. Brent needs to be here, not me. He's a soldier. He's so friggin' smart. He should still be here, not me. And I just, hours on end, just begging for my life to be traded. And it was just like a black pit of darkness is the only thing I can describe it. And after that, it was just a catapult of medical issues and problems. Fast forward a couple years and I'm on multiple antidepressants, multiple seizure meds, multiple stomach meds. I ballooned up to like 240 pounds and I had always been very, very lightweight. And I was just a walking zombie, man. It's just eventually, I think about the things he would say to me. Brent, like I tend to blurt things out. Brent is far more abrasive than I ever was. And if he saw me sitting down here saying I failed him, he'd be like, and excuse my language, please. I'm not going to say it, but he would say, don't be an effing P word. Man up.
Right.
And I know manning up isn't necessarily the best mentality to have, but he's right. Like, he would be disappointed if I wasn't moving forward. He would be mad at me, and he would never allow me to sit here and let this carry me down. And one of the things that got me through it, and I want to be very clear, this is not for everyone. This is just, I guess, when you believe the way I do, which is I'm an agnostic atheist, when you grieve a third time in a way. And what I mean by that is I got to a point where I accepted that I didn't accept. I was probably bawling my eyes out a lot, thinking about the fact that I would never see my brother again. Like, I was like, okay, I'm not going to see him in the next life either. And eventually that brought me to a place of closure where I was like, I can't sit here and wish that I'm just going to see him in the future. He wouldn't allow me to do that. I'm not going to allow myself to do that. And that thought, knowing that all I had was these memories, was what pushed me forward and what got me through it. And it just, I don't know, it was like this gigantic weight coming off my chest. And that's the only way I know how to describe it. I'm like totally shivering right now. I like to cover up my emotions. So right now my body trying to cover up those emotions is shivering.
No, I mean, I'm glad you're sharing it. I mean, see, that's the thing. Like, you being a male, it's like, don't show emotion. Don't show emotion. I'm really glad that. And I think that men should show emotion, especially when it comes time for grief. You cannot hold that in. And I know it's interesting. I could tell your brother means a lot to you. And I feel like he's always a little voice in your head all the time. like, you know, like that's how I could tell that you guys were close, and it's awesome. And another thing, you and I are opposite as far as it seems like you went in a different direction religiously after your brother passing, and I went the opposite direction
Right.
where I was not really a believer because I spent so much time being so angry that like, oh, God would never do this. Like,
Right.
God wouldn't do this. Why would he do this? To after he passed away, I was like, okay, like I'm going to see him again. I'm going to see him again.
Right.
I, you know, that's what helps me get through. Like, it's just interesting how we took it differently. Our religion kind of like went down different paths, and like, 'cause
Right.
I believe in my heart that I will see him again.
And
So that's interesting.
well, no, I agree. I think it's fascinating how we both have very different views, but both came to a place of acceptance and understanding. And to be clear, just so everyone's listening, I not saying I don't want to see him again. Trust me, if all of a sudden I found myself, believing or had the opportunity to see him again in an afterlife, trust me, I would love that. Like, I'm not denying that. But it's just, I don't know. I guess that's the best way I could put it. But there's two ways to get out of these holes. You found a way, I found a way, and what's important for people watching or listening is it literally feels like the end of the world, at least how I could describe it. My brother's, I mean, his laugh, his hugs, his smell, like I can remember all that, especially his laugh. He was such a funny, outgoing dude. And he was one of those people, like, to give you an example, he not only skipped a grade, he graduated early. He was just so he was brilliant. And it sucks he was, I guess, taken too soon.
Oh, absolutely. How old was he?
21.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was young. And I mean, there's still other things I can't get into surrounding what had happened.
Right.
Let's just say the day after he was gone and we went to the house, significant money was missing from his safe, and many other things were taken. And the person he was with at the time got with her ex and moved to Florida within 2 weeks, and the police wouldn't do anything.
Wow.
Family tried to get involved. Mom called police. Like, they just wouldn't do anything. So we never really got that final answer on what the hell happened.
Yeah, so that's tough because like you really don't have closure in that aspect where you just have to accept that you will probably never know exactly what happened.
Right. And where my life has headed, the important lesson is I've had so many people say, like, don't you wish she was dead? Or what would you do if you found her? And the answer is nothing. I've forgiven her. I'm not mad at her. I don't know her motives. I don't know what she went through. I don't know what led to it. I don't even know if she's guilty of something. But sitting here wishing something would happen to another person is not something I could ever get behind. No matter how bad the situation is, I hold no ill will towards her. Would I, at most, I'd say, hey, no judgment. I'd like to know what happened.
Right.
But
and have you tried that?
Yeah, she not recently. Sorry, tried that afterwards, and we couldn't get answers.
That's difficult.
Yeah.
Because how are you supposed to get any type of closure if you don't have an answer? And she probably has answers.
Exactly, and that's literally the only thing I would want, even if the answers are not ideal. That's all I want to know is really what happened.
Right. And you have every right to know.
Right.
I mean, God, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, but I will say it's been, what year is it? 2020. I personally did get my, whatever you want to call it, spirit, my energy. I was able to find that again. And of course, I'm not saying I'm in this great place where everything's phenomenal. I'm not trying to paint that picture at all. I've just been able to get to a place of acceptance and moving forward. And I just hope everyone else, anyone else, can do the same if you've experienced that loss. It's
right. And it's hard. It is not easy, and it's a process.
right.
And you know what's interesting is like people that like look at our Facebook posts and pictures, they probably like they're like, oh, I would never even guess that those people have been in such a dark place. Because
Right.
I think that we deal with things by keeping it humorous and keeping it light and
Absolutely.
fun. I think that's the way that we deal with it, and that's okay. Not everyone's going to deal with it that way. Some people, they don't want to socialize. They want to just not be near people, and
Right.
they shut down, and that's okay. If that's the way that you grieve, everyone is going to grieve differently.
I just wish there were more people that would lean out and give a helping hand, because you don't want to be in someone's face, because like you just said, everyone grieves differently, but people can get really low when they lose someone that close to them, and it's important that you reach out to them, check on them.
Absolutely. Oh, I think you bring up a really good point about how to help grieving people. I think that people don't know what to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So tell me what you would have liked, because I really do. Like, I remember like my sister, she was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I'm going to say the wrong things. I don't know what to do. It's like, what would you have liked people to do to help you
That's
out?
a good question. So I think one of the important things is people are very inquisitive when death happens, and I get that that's totally natural. The worst thing you can do, and my mom suffered this the worst, when they ran the restaurant. It was because we're all personable people. She spoke to everyone, and literally almost every person that would come in there would immediately hug her and just say, I'm sorry Brent died. Like, just it was in your face constantly. Like, I'm trying to find the right words here. The best thing to do is to literally just hug someone, kiss them. Sorry, the best thing for me would hug, kiss, and just say, I'm here for you if you need anything. We don't need that reminder every 5 minutes that we lost someone. Like, we know. And of course you try and look at the good side when people are trying to comfort you, but it's almost, I don't know. Just be there.
Right.
Would be the best way I can put it. And it's just such an unbelievable thing that happens. Like, one of the, not to go back off topic, but one of the, I remember when I first text my friend Fitz, and I said, oh my God, Brent is fucking dead. And he goes, dude, what did he do? And I said, no, this is through text. I go, no, he's dead. And he's like, right, what did he do wrong? And it's like, no,
he's gone. Yeah.
He's gone. He's not here. And it was just an unbelievable thing to process. So sorry, but to turn the question back on you, what would have been best way to support you?
The same thing as you, just let people, and which they did. I like I said, I'm blessed. I have a very good support system, and the people would just say, I'm here for you. But some people don't like talking about the dead when they're gone. Right. They feel uncomfortable. I enjoy it. People are like, I'm nervous. I don't know what to say. I don't want to bring them up. I don't want to upset her. I love it when people bring up my husband and they say, when they say a memory about him, I need to keep that memory alive, because then I know that he existed. So for me, to this day, I just want people to acknowledge him. And it's okay. I don't get uncomfortable when people bring him up. I do not. So for me, that is what helps, is when people talk about him and talk about stories and reminisce. You know, not necessarily when he was sick, because honestly, for me, I have a hard time talking about those times. Maybe that'll change someday. I might be able to reflect and talk about it, but I like to remember him before his illness. He was extremely outgoing and he was goofy, and anyone that knows him knows that he was a character. And he wasn't like that during his illness because he was so depressed. I mean, who wouldn't be?
Right.
So to me, I like it when people share stories about how he was before his illness.
No,
that's how I get through it.
So I feel the same now. I didn't feel it initially because it was a reminder, but yeah, now whenever someone brings up a story about Brent, especially when it's something goofy he's done or something he said, it's like, yeah, that's Brent. Like, you can literally, like, I try and live my life as honest as possible and be as straightforward as possible, but he brought it to a whole new level. Like, that man did not take shit from anybody.
Well, he was in the military, right?
Yeah, but he was like that since he was a kid. I mean, there were times like anyone laid a hand on a family member. I mean, he's just like, he's in your face. Like, he didn't have a temper, but he did not stand for people being treated poorly.
Sounds like he was a good guy.
He was a great guy. And I know people no, never mind. But yes, he was a great guy. What do you think, or what advice could you give to people going through this that are still unable to find their way out?
I would say that there's always hope, because right now, I mean, there's times where people, like, I don't want to call my mother or my stepmother out, but I know, like, her husband, was my dad. So hers is fresh. It just happened in January. And I know, like, she is in the place that I was 2 years ago, where it's like, I'm never going to get out of this. I'm in such a dark place that I cannot get out of this. And I always tell her, I tell anyone, you will. And the thing is, I don't think it gets easier. I think you just learn to just kind of accept it.
Yes.
I don't think, because, like, I'm sure you can relate. It isn't easy, and it'll never be easy.
No.
But you just kind of learn to accept it and live with it. You kind of live with the grief, and it gets lighter as time goes on. But it's always going to be there. Look to your family. I don't know how close you are with your relatives, but it sounds like you're pretty close with your family.
Yep.
That helps a lot, having a good support system. And just, I don't know, sometimes you have to reinvent yourself, find out who you are again. I don't know, that's what I had to do. I changed as a person, and I grew because of that. So that kind of helped me as well. You have to find something to be grateful for. Like, I'm grateful for my family because I know they can be taken away. So I'm grateful for the time that we have here. Some people that haven't lost someone, they don't have that gratefulness in them yet, which I think is learned. I think that you have to learn to be truly, truly grateful.
I agree.
And unfortunately, in order to learn that lesson, you have to experience some kind of tragedy or some kind of loss.
Yes, absolutely. Not that I would ever want anyone to go through it, because it sucks.
Right. But it's inevitable. It's going to happen. We're younger. So it happened to us in a younger part of life than it normally would. But you're going to lose someone that you're close to in your life. It's going to happen.
Absolutely. We're going to go in a couple minutes. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Based off what you were saying, one of the things that just kind of triggered in my memory was learning who you are again, because me and my two brothers were always like this trio, like always together. Even I had friends that would be like, how are you and your brothers so close? I wish I had that with my brothers. And that was just like such a great feeling. I mean, we cooked together, we went to the gym together, we did like so much together. Like,
Right.
to give you an example, like anytime there was a group family party, and we have a big family, within 2 hours, it was always me and my two brothers in another room. Like, we just always gravitated together. And when that lost that one brother, it was like the balance was thrown off.
Right.
Like, this was Tico's older brother, my younger brother, so middle. And it was like that whole thing was out of whack. And during that time, it's like you almost forget you have another brother. Like, you're just so
Right.
and you have to figure out how to, because I just focused on the fact that, wow, this is never going to be the same again. The
No.
three of us aren't together. And rather than like, hey, this is a time where you need to come together and show that maybe you're not a trio anymore, but you're a duo, or, whatever you want to call it.
You have to learn to live a new way,
Right.
because your whole life has changed. That's why it's so hard.
No, I agree.
Because you're like, it's obviously terrible when you lose someone, but now you're like, now I have to change. Like, now my life is going to change, and you have to go about your whole life. Like you said, you were a trio. Well, now you're not anymore. So
Right.
now you have to, your whole life has changed. And just like with my husband dying, my whole life has changed, and it'll never be the same again. And that's also the part that's hard to accept, is knowing that nothing will be like it once was.
I agree. With that, do you have any parting advice?
I would just, I would say, never hold it in. Talk about it. I mean, you're talking about it right now. I don't know about you, but I blog, I journal. I have to get it out. I cannot hold it in. And I know I'm an open book, and I talk about it very, very open about it. So that helps. So I would say, just don't keep it in. And if you want to cry, cry. 2 years later, guess what? There's some days where I lose my shit and I cry over it. So I don't care if it's 5 years and 10 years, and that is normal, and that is okay. If it is 5 years, 6 years, whatever, and it's a Friday night and it's 9 o'clock at night and you don't even know why you're crying about it, that is normal.
Yep,
that is okay.
Absolutely.
So that's what I have to say. My parting advice.
Well, thank you, Holly.
You.
I really appreciate you going over this a very emotional topic for both of us. I think it's an important conversation that needed to happen. And that's all I got. So everyone, thank you for watching.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And I hope everyone has a good night. Holly, stay on the line for a second.
Okay. Thank
night.
you, guys.
Good night, everyone.